On Steph, Klay, and Dray Day, the Warriors faced the Clippers on their second end of a back-to-back. After an embarrassing choke against the Kings on Tuesday, Golden State held on to their lead, and I don't particularly have a theme from last night, but I want to break down some quick reads and plays that I found interesting. So let's break them down. On the very first play, we have dribble penetration by Moses Moody past James Harden, forcing Zubac to rotate over as the big man. Paul George has the help on Looney, so Kawhi is responsible for the two weak side Warriors. He's obviously going to choose Klay Thompson, so when Steph keeps moving without the ball, no one's going to blame Terrence Mann for knowing his personnel and sticking with Steph. Dray becomes wide open at the top and for a reason, and PG doesn't even think about closing out. Credit Dray for shooting a pretty solid percentage from downtown this season. These next couple of clips is ironically what James Harden has been known for his entire career, which is isolation and mismatch hunting. Harden is known universally as a terrible defender, so I think Steph wanted to abuse his mismatch. When Pajensky sets the on-ball screen, most NBA coverages will switch, and not really a breakdown here, but more of a read by Steph Curry as he dances with Harden, who initially has his hands down, but honestly a pretty good contest, and Curry still drains the tough tray. Let's target Harden just like he's done his whole career. Corey Joseph comes up for the high pick and roll to bring Harden into action, and like I said, the predictable coverage will be a switch. The issue with switching is that slight gap between the two defenders, so Steph reads this and knew this was all he needed to exploit that space, and pulls up again from 30 feet. In the second half, we have a high pick and roll with Looney to bring the big man defender high up into action. Zubac is a solid defender and he plays this correctly with a high show and a hand up in order to dissuade the pull-up three by Steph. The issue with this is that Steph just uses his handles and speed to dribble past a slower big man, so you gotta pick your poison here. Curry intelligently uses his body to shield against his trailing Zubac, who's actually playing great defense, so the counter to this is to swing the ball back up to Draymond. Zubac unfortunately is not used to chasing guards on the perimeter, so a small misstep is all the space Curry needs for a classic Steph relocation 3. This is another elite high pick and roll read I want to break down for Steph. Kuminga comes up for the screen to bring Zubac into action, and the Clippers immediately ice it to the sideline. But Terrence Mann angles his body way too much to almost behind Steph, and with Zubac in a predictable show, Steph decides he doesn't even need to use the screen to get dribble penetration and catch Zubac on the wrong side. Curry has always been elite at using his body again to shield and decelerate against the big man, and this time he makes a tough layup with the and one. Elite finishing. Klay finally caught some fire in the fourth. With Pajensky driving in the paint, Daniel Theis is in good position as the weak side low man, helping off a non-shooter in Kuminga. The counter to this we see often with Draymond is the kickout and the immediate dribble handoff with the Golden State shooter. This is solely because Theis was initially close to the paint and has to come out to the screen on the perimeter. Honestly, he rotated really damn well, and this is still a tough shot, especially recently for Thompson, but this one he knocks it down despite the good contest. Let's get Klay another one to keep heating up. Pistol action on the right wing starting with the pin down from Kuminga. Thompson has a couple options here, either coming up high for a handoff or the immediate curl, and since he felt Norman Powell was trailing behind him, he decides to curl and Sarge delivers him the pass. The Clippers kind of miscommunicate here as Theis initially was in a drop, but with Kuminga rolling to the rim, Powell decides to switch this off-ball screen, opening up extra room for the midi pull-up from Klay. As every Warrior fan has stated this season, for Klay to stop shooting contested threes and make better reads. On a fast break after a couple straight buckets, PG is picking up Klay on the left side. This time, Thompson predicts the coverage since he expects PG to close out strong after the last two buckets, so he attacks off the dribble to get by his defender. Theis is late to rotate as the big man, but makes it worse by fouling him on the drive, and Klay makes a tough and one layup. Great read. This was also another amazing read by Steph Curry. Golden State wanted to target Harden on defense in the clutch, so when Moody bringing him up in the screening action, Paul George really wants to avoid this switch and tries to get ahead of the play by fighting the screen. So Steph counters this with a crossover and rejects the screen. This catches PG's off balance and gets triple penetration, and with Zubac in a great position as the weak side low man, look at Steph's ability to explode far from the basket, hang in the air for another layup with great touch. That's a superstar move right there. There you guys have it, a very balanced scoring effort amongst Golden State's Big Three on November 30th, 2023, honoring the jersey numbers of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Despite a terrible start to the beginning of the season and the second night of a back-to-back for the Clippers, the Warriors shared the wealth last night amongst the team and never gave up the lead down the stretch. I want to highlight the variety of plays and great reads by the Big Three that I found interesting in the game, so if you guys like this breakdown, like and subscribe to see more.